Look, the political debate in this country is an ongoing sideshow, and we, the taxpayers, are the punchline. The outrageous indulgence just rolls on. The arrogance and hubris just rolls on, and there is precious little accountability outside of elections, federally up to 2 years away. The latest abuse of your trust and your money comes via the chair of the Climate Change Authority, Matt Kean. We told you at the time that this appointment was wrong. Kean is a former New South Wales Liberal Treasurer. He's a climate alarmist and green energy evangelist, and he took the pieces of silver from Labor for this cushy federal job. But he also kept his role in private business with a major renewable energy investment fund. And now the Daily Telegraph has revealed how taxpayers' dollars have been caught up in an alleged conflict of interest. Anthony Albanese's climate czar Matt Kean faces calls to resign, says the Daily Telegraph, after taxpayers were billed more than $32,000 for his travel to the United Nations Global Warming Conference in Brazil, where he appeared on a panel sponsored by his private employer.
Picture this. You are funding a 5-star trip to Brazil, and the bloke sipping cocktails at the climate summit is spruiking for his own private investment fund. Welcome to Canberra, where accountability checked out years ago and nobody has seen it since. Quick favour, if you are loving this breakdown, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell. Over 90% of you watching right now have not subscribed yet. It costs nothing, takes 1 second, and it genuinely keeps this channel alive. Cheers if you did. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, taxpayers sent him on a luxurious trip to Brazil, and he gets up and spruiks for investors for his private investment firm while he's there. This is just so typical of the global climate change rort. Millions of tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions, billions of dollars, and all to achieve nothing but higher power prices and more money for renewables companies and the people running them. It's just another scandal, of course, to be brushed off by the Albanese Labor government, which gets the usual soft treatment from the Green left media. These people are incredibly smug and arrogant because they keep getting away with it. I mean, have a listen to Treasurer Jim Chalmers on Breakfast TV today trying to defend his so-called widow's tax, where under his new laws, a widow or widower taking sole ownership of a deceased partner's property will be hit with extra tax. The same will happen with divorces. But it's not a problem, according to Chalmers.
But wait, there is more. Treasurer Jim Chalmers has been fielding questions over what critics are calling the widow's tax, a proposal that could hit grieving partners and separating couples who end up sole owners of property. Vague reassurances do not exactly inspire confidence, especially from a government that promised tax cuts, cheaper power, and untouched negative gearing, then quietly rewrote the script. Speaking of rewriting scripts, let us talk unions. New procurement rules are giving preference to companies with union enterprise agreements. Critics call it feathering union nests with taxpayer cash, and given the CFMEU controversies still echoing out of Victoria, that criticism is not exactly baseless.
No, that's why we're addressing it, Tom. That's why we're fixing that. That's why we're changing that so that that won't happen.
Why did it slip through in the first place, though, Treasurer? Because, I mean, your government faces an issue about trust, right? You don't have the best track record when it comes to keeping your word. So are we just going to take you on your word this time and hope that you deliver?
Well, that's your view, Sarah, but we've made it really clear
that
this is an issue that we will address in the... Yeah, I heard you the first time, Sarah.
Yeah, well, it's not my view, just to clarify.
We've made it really clear that this is an issue that we will be addressing.
Well, no, it wasn't her view. It is Labor's track record. It is fact. Let me be very clear about that. Neither Chalmers nor Albanese can be trusted. They've done what they promised not to do. They've done it on changing previously legislated tax cuts, on promised lower power prices, on negative gearing and on capital gains tax. They promised not to raise taxes and then they did it. They say one thing and they do another. Let's again be clear, to use the Treasurer's favourite expression. That is their record. That is the fact. They cannot dismiss that as someone's view. Their only option is to try to convince people it's justifiable. Labor continues to do the bidding for the major unions in a way that raises costs on the economy, on customers, and therefore undermines our future. Despite the horrors in Victoria, the dubious dealings between Labor, the CFMEU and major construction projects, the Albanese government has just passed laws that give it the ability to preference contracts for companies that have enterprise deals with unions. Just more feathering of the union nests at the expense of taxpayers and to the detriment of the economy. And have a look at this from yesterday. What happens when one of the original so-called Senate mean girls, Penny Wong, is called a mean girl? Well, she gets kind of mean.
Now for the theatre. Penny Wong was labelled a mean girl in the Senate, and the reaction was somewhat dramatic for a nickname with history stretching back to the late Senator Kimberley Kitching. Add in Wong's dual union ties, and the whole episode looks less like an isolated spat and more like a pattern. Meanwhile, where is the opposition in all this? The Liberal Party, instead of landing punches on substance, has been busy rebranding itself, which critics are calling navel-gazing at best and self-sabotage at worst. While Labor governs with what looks like quiet disdain for scrutiny, the alternative seems more focused on logos than policy.
This is what the Senator for Higher Taxes, also known as Senator Hume, is actually articulating as the Deputy Leader, and that really lays bare how withdraw that.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Hume, withdraw your comment. Order, I'm running the chamber.
Plenty of finger-pointing. How about that? Wong, of course, was accused of being mean to the late Labor Senator Kimberley Kitching, who came up with the term for her fellow Labor senators, Penny Wong and Katie Gallagher. And I reckon Wong and Gallagher were incredibly mean to former Liberal Senator Linda Reynolds too, as she alleges, with Gallagher having to correct the parliamentary record on at least one occasion. The way I see it, they love being mean, but they won't put up with being called mean. But then Wong would have learnt from some of the meanest players in the caper. Like all Labor politicians, she's a union member. She's with the Australian Services Union. She's also a member of the CFMEU. So this is the government we're dealing with, and which is facing far too little scrutiny and accountability as we speak.
I like the Victorian Premier as opposed to corruption in any form. It's up to authorities, wherever there is evidence, as I said last night, for action to be taken.
Yeah, up to their neck in their relationships with the unions, mean with everything except taxpayers' money, and arrogantly certain they'll never be brought to account. Tragically, Labor's terrible governance is being aided and abetted by some Liberals. Frontbencher Melissa McIntosh ruined the Coalition's day yesterday with her ridiculous rebranding intervention, and this morning she doubled down on the distraction.
If things aren't resonating and if people are actually latching onto our policies and believing in that, but they're not wanting to vote for us, then maybe we need to do something about the brand.
This is such blatant self-harm. Australians are being treated with disdain by the Labor government, and McIntosh just wants to navel-gaze and look for marketing solutions for the Liberals. And they wonder why people prefer One Nation at the moment.
So here is the real worry. When neither major party seems willing to respect the people footing the bill, frustration does not disappear. It migrates, often straight into the arms of fringe parties promising change. Whether that change is good or bad is an entirely different conversation. Thanks so much for watching Australian Signal.